जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुदीनतारिणे परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीचैतन्येश्वरं जय गुरुदेव हरे कृष्णा we are reading the 20th shlok of second chapter. न जायते म्रियते वा कदाचिन् न जायते म्रियते
न जायते म्रियते या कदाचित्
नायं भूत्वा भविता वा न भूयः न
नायं
त्वा
भूत्वा भविता वना भूय
अजो नित्यशाश्वतोऽयं पुराणो अजो
अजो नित्यं शाश्वतोऽयं पुराणो
नित्यशाश्वतोऽयं न हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे
न
न
हन्यते हन्यमाने शरीरे.
Can anyone volunteer to read the translation?
Yes, I can.
Thank you.
Translation. For the soul, there is neither birth nor death at any time. He has not come into being, does not come into being, and will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, and primal. He is not slain when the body is slain. Purport. Qualitatively, the small atomic fragmental part of Supreme Spirit is one with the Supreme. He undergoes no changes like the body. Sometimes the soul is called the steady or uh,
Kutastha. Kutastha.
katastha,
Kutastha.
katastha, kutastha. The body is subject to six kinds of transformations. It takes its birth from the womb of the mother's body, remains for some time, grows, produces some effects, gradually dwindles, and at last vanishes into oblivion. The soul, however, does not go through such changes. The soul is not born, but because he takes on a material body, the body takes its birth. The soul does not take birth there, and the soul does not die. Anything which has birth also has death. And because the soul has no birth, he therefore has no past, present, or future. He is eternal, ever existing, and primal. That is, there is no trace in the history of his coming into being. Under the impression of the body, we seek the history of birth, etc., of the soul. The soul does not at any time become old as the body does. The so called old man, therefore, feels himself to be in the same spirit as in his childhood or youth. The changes of the body do not affect the soul. The soul does not deteriorate like a tree nor anything material. The soul has no byproduct either. The byproducts of the body, namely children, are also different individual souls, and owing to the body, they appear as children of a particular man. The body develops because of the soul's presence, but the soul has neither offshoots nor change. Therefore, the soul is free from the six changes of the body. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. So this is a long purport. So we'll do in short sections. So na jayate mriyate va kadachin. Jayate means takes birth. Mriyate dies. Na, never. So for the soul, never takes birth or dies. It is eternal. So we have been seeing this logic Krishna is formulating for some time, and there are a lot of series of shlokas which talk about how soul is eternal. And here it is said, um, Soul is unborn, eternal, everlasting, primeval. Puranaha, primeval, oldest. When the body is slain or kills or dies, the soul doesn't die. So that is the beauty of the soul, that what laws of physics may apply for the body, for the matter, they will not apply for the soul, because the soul is spiritual, which is not under the control of the material laws. So, in the purport, Prabhupada starts by explaining how even the soul is small fragment part of the Supreme Lord, but it is having the qualities which are different from matter. It is spiritual, and because it is spiritual, it does not have changes. Body will have changes, but the soul doesn't have change. So, what kind of changes does the body have? The body comes into being. There is a birth. For humans, the birth happens from mother's womb, and then the body grows, and then it stabilizes, gets steady, and it has, you know, their own family and children, and then slowly gets old and finally dies. So these changes are happening with the body, but the soul does not change. Therefore, we feel like we are still the same person. We are like, oh, time kitni jaldi beat gaya. Like time went so fast. Just the other day I was in college, or just the other day I was, in my high school, and now today I'm um, already 20 years have passed. So like this, people can see they are the same person, but the body which they had before and now has changed. Prabhupada is explaining here the same aspect, that old man therefore feels himself to be the same spirit as in childhood or youth. So one time Srila Prabhupada was walking at a beach, and when he was walking at the beach, he said, and he was almost, late 70s, 80 years old, close to that. So he was walking with a cane, and he was in Calcutta. So he was saying that um, um, or somewhere in Bengal, that I used to come here when I was a child, and I will run and jump and do so many things. And I feel the same. I still want to do that, but now my body won't allow. So basically, he was explaining from his example that how the body changes, but the person inside remains the same. So I'll read the shloka from Katha Upanishad. In the Katha Upanishad, we also find similar passage which reads, "Na jayate mriyate va vipaschin nayam kutaschin na babhuv kaschet ajo nitya shashvato yam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire." Anybody available to read the translation of this and the rest of the purport?
I
Okay.
can continue.
हाँ आप continue. Thank you. The meaning से. Can you see my screen? You're mute.
Sorry,
Oh, I think.
sorry. Mhm. Uh, Hare Krishna. The
Correct.
meaning of and purport of this verse is the same as in Bhagavad Gita. But here in this verse, there is one special word, vipaschit, which means learned or with knowledge. The soul is full of knowledge or full always with consciousness. Therefore, consciousness is the symptom of the soul. Even if one does not find the soul within the heart, where he is situated, one can still understand the presence of the soul simply by the presence of consciousness. Sometimes we do not find the sun in the sky owing to clouds or for some other reason, but the light of the sun is always there. And we are convinced that it is therefore daytime. As soon as there is a little light in the sky early in the morning, we can understand that the sun is in the sky. Similarly, since there is some consciousness in all bodies, whether man or animal, we can understand the presence of the soul. This consciousness of the soul is, however, different from the consciousness of the Supreme because the Supreme consciousness is all knowledge, past, present, and future. The consciousness of the individual soul is prone to be forgetful. When he is forgetful, of his real nature, he obtains education and enlightenment from the superior lesson of Krishna. But Krishna is not like the forgetful soul. If so, Krishna's teachings of Bhagavad Gita would be useless. There are two kinds of souls, namely the minute particle soul, Anu Atma, and the super soul, Vibhu Atma. This is also confirmed in the Katha Upanishad 1.2.20 in this way.
I can read.
Okay.
अनोरणीयान् महतो महीयान् आत्मस्य जन्तोर्निहितो गुहायं तमक्रतु पश्यति वीतशोको धातु प्रसादान् महिमानमात्मनः.
Both the super soul, Paramatma, and the atomic soul. Sorry. Both the super soul, Paramatma, and the atomic soul, Jivatma, are situated on the same tree of the body within the same heart of the living being. And only one who has become free from all material desires as well as lamentations can, by the grace of the Supreme, understand the glories of the soul. Krishna is the fountainhead of the super soul also, as it will be disclosed in the following chapters. And Arjuna is the atomic soul, forgetful of his real nature. Therefore, he requires to be enlightened by Krishna or by his bona fide representative, the spiritual master. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Okay. So in the first paragraph of the purport, Prabhupada was mentioning that how soul is different from the body. Soul doesn't get the same changes which happen in the body with time, as one is born, grows, develops, have byproducts, dwindles, and then vanishes. Um, and then he's quoting from Katha Upanishad, where there is a similar shloka where the word vipaschit is used, which means learned or with knowledge. So the soul is actually having a characteristic that it is full of knowledge. So all the knowledge which we need, the spiritual knowledge, is actually not outside. It is dormant within our heart. It is dormant within the soul, and that fructifies as one advances in spiritual life. So here it is mentioned that knowledge is the soul is full of knowledge, or full always with consciousness. So we can see that any place where there is consciousness, any living entity is there, we know that by consciousness, the living entity can be differentiated from non-living entity. Any living entity will have consciousness, and consciousness is the sign of life, and that is the sign of presence of the soul. Just like here it is given an example that um, due to clouds sometimes we don't see the sun, but we know that the sun is there in the daytime because that's why the light is there. So similarly, if there is consciousness, that means it's presence of soul. So humans have soul, animals have soul, plants have soul. Unfortunately, some people, they think, oh, soul is only in humans. In some religion, it is like that. They think animals don't have a soul. So that is very unfortunate. They torture and kill animals, but that's not needed actually. We can understand that even plants have soul, even animals have soul, and everything in the nature has to be respected for what it is. And then Prabhupada is mentioning about two kinds of soul. So one is Anu Atma, which is the living entities, and the other is the Vibhu Atma, which is the Supreme Lord. So both Anu Atma and Vibhu Atma, they are like compared to two birds sitting in a tree. Similarly, Atma and Paramatma are there in this body. The Atma is actually wanting to engage in different activities and get the experience and whatever results which come, those fruits the Atma is eating. That is the comparison given, that the tree has birds, one bird is eating the fruits, which means Jiva are actually facing the reactions of their karma. And the other bird, which is the Paramatma, that bird is simply watching. So one bird is only watching, the other bird is eating and engaging in different activities. The one which is simply watching or witnessing is the Paramatma. Also, Paramatma is guiding us, giving indications all the time. And sometimes this Jeev Atma, or the bird who's eating the fruits, sometimes it looks towards the Paramatma, sometimes it doesn't. Most of the time it doesn't even actually um, thinks about looking into Paramatma. And that is our condition. We are so busy in so many things going on. But the moment we start actually withdrawing from outside and go within and try to understand that we have a higher purpose, when we start exploring spiritual life more and seriously and sincerely going deep into it, then we can actually be having that connection, that sambandha, that relationship will re-establish, which we already have. And all this knowledge is within the soul. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prema Sadakabunoy Shravanadi Sudhi Cheti Koroy Udoy. So scripture says that this is eternally in the heart of the living entities, but by hearing and reading and revival, it actually starts to fructify and blossom again. So that is what we are doing. So these are few things we can see here, and then Prabhupada concludes by sharing that how this Atma and Paramatma thing is valid for everybody, and in this particular context, Krishna is the super soul and Arjun is the Jiva, and now the Jiva is actually looking at Paramatma or the super soul or Krishna to get guidance, and Krishna will guide Arjun. So, this is how we can see the Lord is always with us and He is always giving us hints and guiding us. Sometimes the living entity is able to see, sometimes not, most of the time not, because we are so much busy in so many other activities. Okay, so any questions, comments, or any points from the shloka which
I
we
have
just did?
a brief question.
Yes, please.
So my question is, the soul at the in the beginning it says that soul, if there is a consciousness or if there is a knowledge, there is a soul. So
Yes.
yeah, I was wondering, is that consciousness meaning here? It is also, I mean, the word consciousness, it's used, is it emotion as well, or how exactly? Like consciousness, knowledge, and then if all living entity has soul, as you said, so I mean, how is that consciousness is soul, or is that consciousness is also embodying emotion? I'm
Mhm.
just, yeah, I'm just need little clarity between consciousness
So,
and emotion.
Thank you. Thank you for asking that question. So, consciousness is a sign of the presence of soul, just like the light is the presence of sun. That example here it is given. Now, consciousness can be very dormant, or it may be very less dormant, or it may not be dormant at all. So, when consciousness is fully manifested, at that time, the emotions and different aspects of consciousness can be seen, or there will be symptoms of that. So emotions are one symptoms. The other symptoms of consciousness is or like more or less related to consciousness, is because emotion is also not necessarily consciousness, it's related to it. So these are
Mhm.
the nature or characteristics of the soul. So conscious and full of knowledge and full of happiness or bliss, these are the aspects of the soul. So the more they are uh, uh, not covered or not dormant, the more they will manifest. And the more they will manifest, they will also have other aspects like emotions, different kind of emotions are there, or the rasas which we share. So these are some of the things which will come in the third chapter when we'll talk. But I can give you one example which comes. So the consciousness is more covered in the body of animals than in the body of humans. And it is even more covered in a body of plants. So plants won't manifest the symptoms like animals, and animals will not manifest as much as humans. So like this, there is evolutionary process where the soul is actually having different, to the different degree it is actually having the covering. So these will come in the later chapters, and the lesser the covering, the more the emotions and the knowledge and the bliss and everything will fructify. Does it make sense?
Yes. So basically, emotions and other things that you mentioned are part of the consciousness.
Correct. They're
Okay.
connected with. In
Yeah.
fact, the the highest level is when all of these things, including the emotions, can be in connection with the Supreme Lord. When we are having exchange of love with anybody, that is also exchange of emotions. So that exchange of emotions or love, we try to do that with two jivas, two living entities in this
Mm.
world, like our friends, our family, our loved ones, all of those we do. But that also has to be in connection with the Supreme Lord. If it is not in connection with the Supreme Lord, then this love will actually also have, uh, along with the love, will also come, because it's temporary, it'll also come misery. But if it is in connection with the Supreme Lord, then because the Supreme Lord is actually not temporary, He is eternal, that love actually will give us bliss and it will not have misery. So we have to have love with each other, with this, in this world, with different living entities, our families, our loved ones, and we have to do all those duties. But at the same time, it should not be exclusive. It should also be inclusive with our love with the Lord, and adding that aspect, that spiritual aspect to our life can actually make it a holistically appropriate life where we can live in union with the Lord, in union with the Mother Nature, as well as in union with the whole spiritual realm. So that's what Bhagavad Gita offers us. Does it
Mhm.
make sense?
Mhm. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions anybody has? Okay, we'll go to next shloka 21. Please repeat. Veda vinashinam nityam. Veda vin.
Vedam
वेदाविनाशिनं नित्यं
Samritam
Ya enam ajam avyayam.
या
Ya
एनम्
Enam
अजम्
Ajam
अव्ययम्
Avyayam
कथं सा पुरुषः पार्थ
कथं
कथं
सा
सा पुरुषा
पुरुषा
पार्थ
पार्थ
कं घातयति हन्तिकम्
कं
कं
घातयति हन्तिकम्
घातयतु इन्तिकम्.
Translation: O Parth, how
Very
can
good.
a person... Okay, go ahead, please.
I
Thank you.
can read here. Translation: O Partha, how can a person who knows that the soul is indestructible, eternal, unborn, and immutable, kill anyone or cause anyone to kill? Purport: everything has its proper utility, and a man who is situated in complete knowledge knows how and where to apply a thing for its proper utility. Similarly, violence also has its utility, and how to apply violence rests with the person in knowledge. Although the justice of the peace awards capital punishment to a person condemned for murder, the justice of the peace cannot be blamed because he orders violence to another person according to the codes of the justice. In Manu Samhita, the law book for mankind, it is supported that a murderer should be condemned to death so that in his next life he will not have to suffer for the great sin he has committed. Therefore, the king's punishment of hanging a murderer is actually beneficial. Similarly, when Krishna orders fighting, it must be concluded that the violence is for supreme justice, and thus Arjuna should follow the instructions, knowing well that such violence committed in the act of fighting for Krishna is not violence at all, because at any rate, the man, or rather the soul, cannot be killed. So, for the administration of justice, so called violence is permitted. A surgical operation is not meant to kill the patient, but to cure him. Therefore, the fighting to be executed by Arjuna at the instruction of Krishna is with full knowledge, so there is no possibility of sinful reaction. Haribu.
Hare Krishna, thank you. Okay, so here Krishna is using all those principles of the characteristics of the soul: indestructible, eternal, unborn, immutable. So, what is immutable? Can anybody tell? What does this mean? Immutable. Avyayam.
Are you
Can
asking
yes.
just the English meaning
Yeah,
or?
English meaning. English meaning is fine.
Oh, okay. It doesn't something that doesn't change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, correct. So,
I mean,
the,
I don't know the Gita
yeah,
in the context of it.
yeah, in the context of the soul, immutable, like yeah, like in science we study about mutation, right?
Yeah,
How
it's like
mutation.
soul that doesn't change, as it was explaining, maybe.
Yes, yes. So avyayam or avikaryo, vikar, uh, certain properties of the soul, if they were to change, like for example, if two souls were,
बेटा यहीं उतर जा तेरा 14 यहीं है
I think somebody is not on mute. Okay. So um, mutable means some changes within the constitution of the soul. Like different souls are of different types, different size, different color, different. These are the characteristics, right? If something changes in that. So the soul, nothing changes. It's not that the soul will change. It's not that the souls will come together and make one soul, or one soul can be cut and make separate souls. No, that doesn't happen. So here it is said that these are the properties of the soul, and one who knows this, how can that person cause anyone to kill? What it means is the one who is in knowledge is not intending to kill the soul and cannot kill the soul. So why is Krishna saying that? Krishna is reflecting again to Arjun. Hey, Arjun, you have to do your duty, and your duty is to fight. And if you know that you are actually not focused on killing or not killing, you are focused on doing your duty, then that is completely safe. So Prabhupada explains here in the purport that everything has its proper utility. So similarly, violence also has a proper utility. So if we see this society or a country, and we say, hey, we don't need police, or we don't need army, or we don't need any means to protect our country or citizens, that will be a foolish idea. It will not be a practical idea. And therefore, even in the past, we used to have kings who will be protecting the citizens, who will be doing, you know, justice where justice is due. And even now we have police, we have army, we have judiciary. And in a country where all these things are functioning properly, people want to be there. And where they're not, these things are not working, people don't want to be there, because people feel like, oh, we are unsafe, we'll get attacked. So this is how society should function, that to minimize violence, you have to have strong defense, internal defense with police and everything, and external defense with army and everything. So that is how it was even in the past. And Prabhupada is explaining that that is appropriate. If somebody says that violence has no place, then what about those who are doing killing or murderers or other people? Are they not going to be punished? And if they are not going to be punished, everybody will start doing crime. So you have to set standards. So Prabhupada is mentioning that sometimes the government may punish, government of the king or government right now may punish a murderer, that, oh, a murderer, he murdered, he's a terrorist, he'll have to be hanged. So those kind of uh, punishments are actually appropriate. Why they are appropriate? Because the person who has committed the crime, if that person doesn't get punishment right now, the person has to suffer much more. He'll have to suffer many, many more times later. So that has to be done. And also, even right now, from government standpoint of view, you have to do that, because you have to teach lesson to the rest of the society that, hey, you have to be peace loving people, so you don't commit crime. And that way the king or the leader of the government has to do these decisions. And similarly, Arjun was being encouraged to continue his duty as a kshatriya, and he should not get into a situation where he is not doing his duties properly. And then Prabhupada gives an example of surgery, that if the society is considered like a patient, then a patient may have a abscess, like a, infected area, pus filled filled skin, and then you have to relieve the pus to get proper healing. And for that you may have to use a knife. But somebody may say, "Arey, knife, no, 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 knife can, you can get hurt." Yes, but the same knife, when doctors use, and it is used for the benefit of the patient, initially there may be some pain because of cutting or because of injections, but eventually it heals. So similarly, this is minimizing the pain to the patient, but some pain has to be given in the form of the surgery. And similarly, in the society, violence has to be minimized, but some violence is necessary for doing this. If somebody says, oh, no, I want to be completely non-violent, that may not be practical. In fact, there was one promoter of non-violence, and he had some group of people with him, and he had some girls there with him. So they said, you are talking about non-violence. What about, what if some people, they attack these young, beautiful girls next to you, and they kidnap them or take them? Are you not going to do violence to protect and fight with them? So this gentleman, he said, no, I will not do violence at any cost. So he said, even if they capture and take these girls, and he was not sure what to say. Because to minimize violence, you have to use violence at times when it is as the last resort. And that's what is the verdict of the scriptures also. Okay. Any questions? Okay, we'll go to the next shloka. We'll try to cover this. This is very important shloka. Very important and very nice. Please repeat after me. Vasamsi jirnani yatha vihaya.
वासांसि जीर्णानि यथा विहाय
Navani grihnati naroparaनि. Navani.
नवानि गृह्णाति नरो अपराणि
तथा शरीरानि विहाय जीर्णानि
तथा शरीराणि विहाय जीर्णानि
अन्यानि संयाति नवानि देहि
अन्यानि संवाति नवानि देहि.
Okay. As a person puts on new garments, giving up old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. So this is very important. So soul is accepting new bodies, giving up old ones. Why is that? Just like we change clothes, we wear new clothes, give up old clothes, same thing has to be done. Perfect. Change of body by the atomic individual soul is an accepted fact. Even the modern scientists who do not believe in the existence of soul but at the same time cannot explain the source of energy from the heart have to accept continuous changes of body which appear from childhood to boyhood and from boyhood to youth and again from youth to old age. From old age, the change is transferred to another body. This has already been explained in the verse 2.13. So we heard in the previous shloka that how different changes are happening within this life when we are living from childhood to boyhood, boyhood to youth, youth to old age, the body is changing. So similarly, body also changes at the time of death and the soul passes to another body. And this is compared to changing of garments. Just like dirty and old garments are given up and new one taken out. Transference of atomic individual soul to another body is made possible by the grace of super soul. The super soul fulfills the desire of the atomic soul as one friend fulfills the desire of another. The Vedas, like the Mundaka Upanishad as well as Svetaswara Upanishad, compare the soul and super soul to two friendly birds sitting on the same tree. One of the birds, the individual atomic soul, is eating the fruit of the trees, and the other bird is simply watching his friend. Of these two birds, although they are the same in quality, one is captivated by the fruits of material tree, while the other is simply witnessing the activities of his friend. Krishna is the witnessing bird and Arjuna is the eating bird. Although they are friends, one is still the master and the other is servant. Forgetfulness of this relationship by atomic soul is the cause of one's changing his position from one tree to another or from one body to another. The Jiva soul is struggling very hard on the tree of the material body, but as soon as he agrees to accept the other bird as the supreme spiritual master, as Arjuna agreed to do by voluntary surrender onto Krishna for instruction, the subordinate bird immediately becomes free from all lamentations. Okay, so let's just discuss this much. So, soul is changing from one body to another, and along with the soul, we have the super soul or the Paramatma. So, Atma and Paramatma are together. We were discussing it is like two birds in one tree. So these two birds, like I was discussing, one is just watching, witnessing bird. The other one is actually the eating. He's eating the fruits. And Arjuna is compared to the jiva or the bird eating the fruits, and Krishna is compared to the super soul or the Paramatma. And here it is mentioned, as soon as the jiva or the living entity accept the other bird as the supreme spiritual master, the subordinate bird immediately becomes free from lamentation. So right now we have so much negativity in our particular condition. We have so much limitations in our condition. We are limited by the body. We have to no way of overcoming birth, disease, old age, death. We have feeling of happiness and sorrow and distress and lamentation and so many of these. But once one is able to get seriously and sincerely advance in spiritual life, that is like seeing the Paramatma or the super soul or the Lord. And one is able to do that, one is able to come out of this whole lamentation, which is called as liberation or moksha. And how long does it happen? How long does it take to happen? Prabhupada is saying it can happen immediately. So we have to see how our endeavors are in the spiritual life. If our endeavors are serious and sincere, this can happen very fast. So here the shloka is quoted, Samane vrikshe purusho nimagno nisha nishayashochati muhyamana jushtam yada pashyati anyamisham asya mahimanamiti vitashoka. Although the two birds are in the same tree, the eating bird is fully engrossed with anxiety and moroseness as the enjoyer of the fruit of the tree. But if in some way or the other he turns his face to his friend, the Lord, and knows his glories, at once the suffering of the bird becomes free from all anxieties. Arjuna has now turned his face towards his eternal friend, Krishna, and is understanding the Bhagavad Gita from him. And thus, hearing from Krishna, he can understand the supreme glories of the Lord and be free from lamentation. Arjuna is advised herewith by the Lord not to lament for the bodily change of his old grandfather and his teacher. He should rather be happy to kill their bodies in the righteous fight so that they may be cleansed at once of all reactions from bodily activities. One who lays down his life on the sacrificial altar or in the proper battlefield is at once cleansed of bodily reaction and promoted to higher statuses of life. So there was no cause for Arjuna's lamentation. Okay. So this is basically further highlighting the bird which is witnessing and the bird which is eating. The bird which is witnessing is the Paramatma, and the one who is eating is actually full of anxieties. And why the living entity is changing from one body to another? That is an important question. Can somebody think, why are we having to take birth one after the other, one after the other? Why is the soul going from one body to another? Nobody has thought about it ever.
I've thought about it, but I could be absolutely wrong.
That's okay. You can still.
Well, we have some karma to do that is left out.
Okay.
To fulfill that, um, we take the birth, rebirth, and so on, so forth.
Okay. Yes.
That would be my brief answer. And in other ways, you can say moksha nahi mila.
Yeah, yeah. No, those are valid. But why do we have to face the karma, and why we have to, why have we not got moksha? What is actually making us go through all of this again and again? What is the cause for these?
Maybe we have not reached the stage of divinity that we should have.
Okay. Any other answers anybody wants to try? Well, these are valid points. Actually, one of the most important reason we have to see is our desires. We are getting all the different opportunities or chances or situations based upon our desires. Because of our desires, we act in a particular action, and because of our action, we actually generate that karma, which we have to then face. So, if we transform our desires from material to spiritual, our destiny will also change from material to spiritual. So that is something which we can meditate on and try to see how we can do little by little some changes. In this particular uh, purport, there is a mention that Arjuna is having hesitation to fight because he's thinking his grandfather, his teacher, they are there, which is a very valid concern. But Krishna is explaining the science of the soul to make him understand that it's not under your control how their future is going to be. You only have one thing, and that is either you do your duty or you don't do your duty. That is the only choice you can make. And amongst this, Krishna is explaining doing the duty is the better route than not doing or going away from it. And he's giving these different perspectives, the different ideas, knowledge of the soul, and so on and so forth, so that these principles can be used by anybody at any time, at any place. And it does not just remain valid for Arjun. It would have been very simple if he had to only convey to Arjun. But through these, he's conveying to all of us. So we can take advantage of this whole science by reading, understanding, and practically applying. So these are few thoughts I can share here. I'll read the translation again. As a person puts on a new garment, as a person puts on new garments, giving up the old ones, the soul similarly accepts new material bodies, giving up the old and useless ones. Okay, so I think we'll stop here. Any questions, comments, or any points anybody would like to share? We did 3 shlokas today, 20th, 21st, and 22nd. Okay, so if
So
nobody
one,
has any,
I have one comment. The
please.
one comment is that, I mean, there is everybody is doing karma in today's world in some way or the other. People are also going to the religion and in their own ways, different religions, different faiths, and everything. But the sin doesn't go away from the earth. And I'm thinking, like, why?
Mm-hmm. So that is a very nice question. So actually, when we talk religion or when we talk sin, these are not like absolute things. These are not black and white. There are so many different shades of grays there. So we have to actually see that every action will get a reaction. Every desire can be so different. Like, even if one has a desire to eat, that desire to eat may have so many positive aspects and negative aspects. Different people may have the same desire and may affect them in different ways. Um, and if we see the sin, when you say, it is a lot depend upon our inner consciousness, our intentions, that matters more than the actual action. Both are important. Action will also affect, but the intention is more important, because if the intention is changed, the action can change. It's not so much the sins, but the tendency to commit sin which has to go away. The sins may get nullified or may go away, but if the tendency to commit sin is there, one will commit 10 times more sin, 100 times, 1000 times more sin. So that tendency has to go away, and for that one has to advance spiritually to understand, which will come in the subsequent sections of the Bhagavad Gita, that how one pandita or an advanced or a learned person is, what is their vision. Even in this chapter, in the towards the second chapter, Arjun will ask this question to Krishna, that sthita pragyasya ka bhasa, that one whose steady intelligence, sthita pragya, what are their symptoms. So we'll discuss more on that, that how one who is advanced, how that person conducts themselves. So that way we don't label religion. We What we say is, it is the intention of the practitioner which determines the outcome of their actions, whether it is religious or not religious. But what intentions, what desires, what actions, all these things will actually have implications on what they're doing and what the outcome would be. And some outcomes could be labeled as reactions of sins, and some outcomes can be labeled as reactions of the pious activities they may have done. But they are all different shades of gray, which different people may perceive differently.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we'll end here. Kanantraj Bhagavad Gita ki Jai